Chevrolet. Tonight, we come to you from a very special location here on this 4th of July weekend on the grounds of the nation's largest military installation. The crowd tonight is made up exclusively of servicemen and women and their families to witness the first ever professional sporting event played on an active U.S. military base. What better way to celebrate America's 240th birthday than by honoring those who protect our freedom every single day?
The eve of Independence Day. A time to remember what this nation is. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's an American exceptionalism that must be preserved by the brave men and women of our armed forces. America, we can see it and feel it when we watch baseball. Because who we are is reflected in our national pastime. Hard work and teamwork are rewarded with a thrilling trip home. Baseball, sewn into our fabric like the stars and stripes. And tonight at Fort Bragg, a home game for everyone who calls this country home and knows how truly special it is.
Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Taco Bell. What a scene and what a couple of days it has been. How lucky and honored are we to be a part of this. The Marlins and the Braves, they're all fired up to play this game here tonight at Fort Bragg in front of members of the military and their families on the eve of the 4th of July. Hi, everybody. Glad you're with us. Dan Schulman, Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone. I think I speak for all of us. Got some goosebumps right now, don't you?
Seriously, it's so exciting. And honestly, being around all of the guys, all of the men and women the last couple of days, to me, two things have stood out. Just how hard these men and women work and the sense of teamwork and pride they have. When you really think about what it means to be an American, they represented the best.
Getting to spend time with these guys, rubbing shoulders with them, eating lunch with them yesterday at a colonel's house, truly a humbling experience. And then to show up today at this ballpark, a true field of dreams they get to play on tonight.
A number of players on these two teams have ties to members of the military, among them veteran catcher A.J. Pierzynski, whose old high school teammate Major Ron Colombo serves here at Fort Bragg, and has a shout out for A.J.
AJ, what's up, buddy? Sorry I can't be there this weekend at Fort Bragg to watch your Braves take on the Marlins, but the opportunity came up to head to Fenway Park, sit on the Green Monster, and watch David Ortiz in his retirement year. So I'm sure you understand, man. Me and the other alumni from Dr. Phillips love to get out and watch you perform at such a high level, considering you only got so much talent left in the tank. Looking forward to catching up with you at the next GP golf tournament. And I'm going to keep my eye on you and Johnny Damon to make sure you don't have any pencils with erasers in your golf bag.
Johnny Damon, also a graduate of Dr. Phillips High in Orlando. A.J. Pierzynski joining us live from the field. What's it like to hear from your old buddy, the Major?
That was pretty awesome. You know what's funny is I brought his picture. You can see his picture here. He has his nice bow tie. This is actually a life-size picture of Ron. You can tell in the video. He's just a little guy, but I love Ron. We go way back. We talk a lot of trash back and forth, and kind of like Booney, you know, we ate today at the mess hall. He went to the Colonel's house.
AJ, what's the experience been like today for the Atlanta Braves?
It's been amazing to go and see these guys. We went to the special ops today. We had some guys go to the parachute packing tent, and just to spend time with these guys. Like I said, we went to the hospital. We got to eat at the mess hall with the troops today, and to see their look on their faces, the smiles on their kids' faces, is what it's all about. And then to be here and to see what they did with this stadium, I mean, it gives you goosebumps, it gives you chills, whatever you want to say, to look up in the stands and see these people here. It's amazing.
Well said, AJ. Thanks for joining us. Good luck tonight.
No problem, guys. Thank you.
AJ Pierzynski of the Atlanta Braves. On the Marlins side, Christian Yelich has a close family connection to the military as well. His brother is a Marine. For more on that, down to Buster Olney.
That's right. Your brother Cameron in the Marine Corps. What have your conversations been like about this event?
He's really excited. You know, he couldn't make it out, but, you know, he's definitely going to be watching, and, you know, we're proud of him.
Christian, what's this day been like at Fort Bragg?
It's been awesome just to interact with the servicemen and women, you know, who serve our country. You know, they've been so thankful for us coming out here, but, you know, really it's the other way around. You know, we're thankful for, you know, them letting us come here and, you know, play this game in honor of them.
Christian, thanks. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. Welcome to Fort Bragg. That says it all. We're thrilled to be here. They're excited to have the Marlins and the Braves here. The ceremonial first pitch has been thrown. The stands are full. And we've got the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves coming up. The Fort Bragg game is next. ESPN is presented by the new $1.49 steak flatbread sandwich at Taco Bell. It's all the steak, none of the sacrifice. And in part by AARP, Real Possibilities. And Chevrolet, the most awarded car company 2 years in a row. Welcome to the nation's largest military installation, Fort Bragg, here in North Carolina. We are adjacent to Fayetteville, North Carolina, the nearest city. We can show you on a map exactly where we are. There are over 250,000 people living here at Fort Bragg. Better than 55,000 of them are active members of the military. It covers 500 square miles and is located within 6 different counties here in North Carolina. A short trip up from Atlanta for the Marlins and the Braves as they finish up a 4-game series. They played yesterday late afternoon in Atlanta, made the short trip up last night, and here they are. Aren't we happy to have them for the Fort Bragg game here tonight? Let's take a look at the starting lineup for the Miami Marlins, brought to you by Taco Bell.
Well, we got to look at Marcell Ozuna, who's having a career year, almost an MVP candidate with the numbers he's putting up, leading the team in batting average, home runs, and RBI. But don't forget the guy, the big bat right behind him, Giancarlo Stanton. He leads MLB with 450-foot home runs. He's got 31 of them. That's double the next closest guy. He struggled a little bit this season, but he has been hot the last few weeks.
On the mound tonight for the Atlanta Braves, and yes, this is a home game for the Braves. 23-year-old right-hander Matt Whistler in his second year in the big leagues, coming off a career-high 9 strikeout performance in 6 innings Tuesday against Cleveland. And as you can see, another player with a connection to the military. His grandfather Robert served during World War II. The stadium is known as Fort Bragg Field. We will tell you more about it over the course of the evening. This 4 months ago was an abandoned golf course that had fallen into a lack of use and disrepair, and they built a baseball stadium here, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully manicured. 12,500 seats. They are full here with the members of the military and their families as we get ready for the Marlins and the Braves. Just outside, ball 1, says home plate umpire Alfonso Marquez. The leadoff hitter tonight for the Marlins is their catcher JT Realmuto, who is hitting .309 on the season. He is one of 5 Marlins hitters who have enough plate appearances to qualify, who are hitting over .300. If you look at the batting leaders in the National League heading into action today, the Marlins have 5 in the top 14, including Realmuto. And heads up, folks, our press box, this is a smaller stadium in terms of the seating, not the dimensions of the field, obviously. One of you got a glove?
We better look alive up here.
We better not get too fixated on the monitor. That ball's coming up here in a hurry. Swing and a miss in the count, 1-2.
There's a good look at that Whistler slider. That is a wipeout pitch for him. Fastball is going to be low mid-90s. Command to both sides important. If he can command that fastball, it sets up that very good slider.
And strike 3 called with a breaking ball to get him. Prior to tonight's game, Chevrolet made dreams come true for some young ball players with a cap exchange here at Fort Bragg with the Braves and the Marlins. Chevrolet and its dealers are proud to support the military and youth baseball. To learn more, visit ChevySalutes.com. The players spending some time with the military families, ate at the mess hall today, toured the facility. All kinds of great initiatives on both sides, on the part of the teams, on the part of the Army. Martin Prado is the batter, and for those who don't know, we'll talk about this again over the course of the evening. This was a joint initiative between Major League Baseball and the Players Association to make this happen. Commissioner Rob Manfred is here tonight. He will join us a little bit later on in the telecast. Tony Clark, the executive director of the Players Association, is here tonight as well. You probably saw him on a Baseball Tonight a little bit earlier. Prado, a former Atlanta Brave, and hitting .316 on the season. Another one of those Marlins with a very high batting average. This is a good Miami team. They're in the thick of it. They've lost 2 out of 3 to Atlanta. In fact, the biggest problem they've had this year is Atlanta. They've lost 8 out of 11 to the Braves, but the Marlins are in the wild card hunt under first-year manager Don Mattingly. In a swing and a miss, back-to-back strikeouts for Whistler.
A couple real nice sliders that absolutely got the attention of Martin Prado. And then here with 2 strikes, he paints a fastball on that outside corner, and Prado just waves at around 94 on that fastball. You see it kind of run back to the outside corner. That side of the plate, if he's commanding with that fastball, Matt Whistler is a guy that can shut you down. We've seen flashes of it throughout his young career.
Christian Yelich, first pitch swinging, and he grounds one into center field, a base hit.
Christian Yelich, this is where he's been so consistent all season long. He just simply goes up, first pitch, he's got a plan, gets a fastball middle, hits it middle.
Special bases, baseballs, and so forth here at the game tonight. The players talking about how great the field is. It looks just like a major league field. First time on this mound, obviously, for Matt Whistler. None of the players got here until late last night. Didn't get to the ballpark until a few hours ago. The field, by the way, will stay as a recreational facility, a softball field and so forth for the members of the military and their families. The stands will come down, but a lot of the infrastructure will stay, and this will turn into a very nice facility, a very nice recreational area for folks here at Fort Bragg. Marcell Ozuna hitting .316, 17 home runs on the season. The cleanup hitter tonight for the Marlins. A guy who struggled so much last year, Jess, he wound up down in the minors for a while, but he's having an all-star kind of season this year.
It's amazing, just simple adjustments that he's made. He's getting a little bit closer to the plate, but also really just a mindset. Laying off more inside, trying to look more middle away. And because of that, he's more patient. He's not swinging early. He's not so quick to the ball. Because anytime you're looking in, you're firing early.
Up and in. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know, something to keep an eye on here with the Marlins, who don't run a lot, as Whistler whizzes one up and in on Marcell Ozuna, and certainly gets his attention as Ozuna looked right back out there like, okay. But this is a combination, Whistler and Tyler Flowers, that teams will try to run against. Whistler base runners are 10 for 10 against him this year in stolen base attempts, and Tyler Flowers just 2 for 33 throwing out base runners on the year. So even though, especially with Ichiro out of the lineup for the Marlins, and they don't run a lot, this might be a battery that they might push the envelope a little bit.
Yelich does have 4 steals on the season. He is not going, and the 1-2 swung on and missed, and that's the inning. A base hit, also 3 strikeouts for Whistler. No score. Go to the bottom of the first here at Fort Bragg. Originally founded in 1918 as an artillery training post known as Camp Bragg when it opened originally almost 100 years ago, and as we mentioned, home to more than 55,000 active members of the military. A number of presidents have visited it over the last nearly 100 years as well. Let's check out the starting lineup for the Atlanta Braves tonight, brought to you by Taco Bell, and a guy in the 3 spot, Booney, who is really, really hot right now.
He is really hot. One of the holdovers as the Braves go through a rebuilding mark. They have held on to their franchise player, a .423 average since June 13th. And Jeff Francoeur back with the Braves after, of course, starting his career here, has played a pivotal role and has handled left-handed pitching to a .311 clip.
Jace Peterson leads it off for the Braves. The second baseman is on a 13-game hitting streak as he fouls one off his foot. The count is 0-2 on the mound tonight for the Marlins. Left-hander Adam Conley got really good stuff. 3 times this year he's taken a no-hitter into the 6th inning, and in fact once he was lifted with a no-hitter after pitching 7 2/3. That was April the 29th at Milwaukee. He was up around 116 pitches. Bouncing ball stays fair, and Peterson retired 1 down.
Here's a look at Conley, and just a weak contact off a hot hitter. As you can see, it does go right over the bag. Chris Johnson there to field that easily, record an easy out for Conley. There is a lot to like about Adam Conley. Fastball low 90s typically, a wipeout slider when it's on that he'll bury to the back foot of the right-handed hitters. He'll mix in a changeup. And notice how quick he works. He gets the ball, gets right back on the rubber. He loves to work fast.
Here's Chase Darno, who takes way inside of the belt, and actually it got a piece of him. So Darno will head down to first. That is the 8th batter that Conley has hit this season.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with his willingness and intent to completely dominate that side of the plate against right-handed hitters. He is going to try to establish the inside corner because that's what sets up his very good slider that has a lot of north-south action, that he'll get swings and misses from these right-handed hitters.
This is inside to Freddie Freeman. So now 8 hit batters, 7 wild pitches. Nobody in the National League has combined to put as many men on a base via those 2 methods, wild pitches or to give up a base or put a man on, as Conley has. He's now hit 8 batters, 7 wild pitches on the season. Freddie Freeman is the batter. He has been a very, very hot hitter, as we told you about. He went 3 for 4 with a home run last night in Atlanta. And he lines a ball into left field, a base hit. Stopping at second on the play is Darno, and the Braves with 2 men on and 1 out here in the bottom of the 1st.
Conley is a reverse split guy, so he's going to have better numbers actually against righties instead of lefties. And this pitch right here, he just hangs over the middle against Freddie Freeman. He does a nice job of going with it, but the biggest thing Conley needs to do against left-handed batters, the reason why they have good numbers, is he has a hard time really getting inside, and Freeman, looking middle away, gets what he wants.
So the Braves, who are playing some pretty good baseball, they won 2 out of 3 in this series so far. Send Nick Markakis to the plate, and he drives one to deep right center field, and it will be caught just shy of the track by Ozuna. The runner Darno will tag and come to third. Freeman back to first, and Ozuna looked like he was half worried about the baseball and half worried about getting steamrolled by Giancarlo Stanton.
Well, it's that time of night where the sky can be an issue. So you wonder if Stanton saw it initially, maybe Ozuna was struggling. It's a time of night where, as an infielder, you're always taught to point to the outfielders to say, hey, where is the ball? Because the sky can really hide it, and you see Stanton peel off at the last second.
Oh, wow. Rolled up his arm.
Yeah, real fortunate to be able to hang on to that with runners on base for the 2nd out.
It is deep in the alleys here at Fort Bragg. It's 331 down the lines, but it's 387 to the gaps and 405 to center field. That ball would have been out of a number of major league ballparks. First and third, 2 down, and it's a ball and a strike now on Adonis Garcia, the third baseman, hitting .236.
And in batting practice, what wind there was blowing in. Hitters were saying it's playing big. The only guy that didn't feel it was that big was, you guessed it, Giancarlo Stanton.
There is oohing and eyeing with every foul ball here. Everybody who's at this game lives on this base. They're either active members of the military or their families. For them to get a chance to see a Major League Baseball game here in the state of North Carolina, first time there's ever been a Major League regular season game in North Carolina, for them to get to see a game right in their own backyard, you can hear how much fun they're having just by the reactions every time the ball is hit. Right center field, Ozuna again, and that's the inning. The Braves will leave a couple of men on. We're at the end of 1 here at Fort Bragg. No score. Second inning. Moments ago, Major League Baseball dedicated a chair of honor in honor of POWs and those missing in action, and representing the families of those who were lost but have never been found is Martha Baldwin, her daughter, and her grandchildren. They represent the families of the more than 83,000 American servicemen and servicewomen whose remains have never been recovered since World War II. A number of tributes towards the military, by the military, that you will see over the course of the evening here at Fort Bragg. Here's Giancarlo Stanton leading off the second for the Marlins. Stanton has had a tough season. It is getting better. He has been better the last couple of weeks, but he went through a tremendously tough stretch. You can see the batting average is just .218. The pop is still there, 15 home runs, but not the kind of numbers you associate with Stanton, who last year when he got hurt, I'm okay, Jess, I saw it, who last year when he got hurt was leading the National League in home runs and RBIs. 2 years ago was when he was hit in the face late in the season, and you can see the personalized, monogrammed, if you will, face guard that he wears. But it has not come easily, guys, for him so far this season as he strikes out.
That's probably been the biggest thing, and he's always been a strikeout guy. You're always going to have the home run hitters that have that, but for Giancarlo Stanton this season, especially when he's struggled, it's been more of just him not seeing the ball like he normally does because of that front side. And granted, this pitch is off speed. It's 83 miles per hour, but you can see Stanton firing early, looking fastball, just missing. But that's probably been the biggest thing, is not picking up like he normally does, at least being able to foul off.
So all 4 outs recorded by Matt Whistler tonight have been via the strikeout. We told you he's coming off a career-high 9 in his last start against the Indians. Derek Dietrich is the batter for the Marlins, the second baseman, hitting .302, one of those 5 guys up above 300. And that does not include Ichiro, who's hitting over 300 but does not have enough plate appearances to qualify. 42-year-old Ichiro not on the starting lineup tonight, but having a terrific year as a part-time player for the Marlins. Dietrich getting a heck of an opportunity to play after the PED suspension to D. Gordon. Dietrich taking over at second base. Gordon eligible to come back near the end of July the 28th. But meanwhile, Dietrich's hitting over 300, and he's got a great on-base percentage. It's not really because he's patient. It's because he's been hit by a pitch 17 times this year, including 4 times already in this series.
Dan, he's got that Evo shield on his elbow to protect him, and you'll see on some takes that are inside, he's not afraid to wear it, and I think that's probably the reason why he's leading all of baseball in hit by pitches, is when he turns, he knows what he's got on the elbow, and he's not afraid to take one off of it.
That's a foul ball.
Well, and it's guys like Dietrich that are a big reason why the Marlins are right in the hunt. When you consider that D. Gordon has been lost and what a player he was for them a year ago, Giancarlo Stanton having a down year, Dietrich being steady, the emergence of Yelich and Ozuna, I think it lends itself to, if you're a Marlin fan, feeling real optimistic about what's potentially ahead, because you would figure that Stanton would catch fire at some point.
High fly ball down the right field line. Markakis tracking it and is there to make the catch for out number 2. Well, as we mentioned, this field was built in about 4 months. They broke ground in early March on the site of what had become an abandoned golf course here at Fort Bragg. Groundbreaking is March 8th. And the field was installed in May. Ballpark was completed just about a week ago. There's 100,000 square feet of Bermuda turf grass here, 8,000 tons of drainage gravel and sand, 250 tons of infield clay, major league caliber padding in the outfield wall, foul poles, you name it. It's beautiful. It's a great looking ballpark, and a tribute to Major League Baseball, the Players Association, and the military for all collaborating and making this happen.
I think we all had high expectations because we heard it was pretty special what they were able to do, but I think all of us showing up today and seeing this place and then seeing the players' reactions, it is a field of dreams out there, and these guys are excited to be here.
Chris Johnson is the batter. Sprays one foul into the seats down the right field line.
Yeah, coming out 4 or 5 hours before the game and seeing players not want to be in the clubhouse, not want to be anywhere but out here, just looking around, looking for military men and women to talk to, but really just walking the stadium to see everything, every little inch. You see the wave making its way around.
I didn't see the wave coming. I love it. Didn't see it coming though, you guys.
Saw a number of players out with their phones before the game, taking pictures and videos of the field and the ceremonies. You know, some of them have some military background in their family. Most of them do not. None of them have ever played in an environment or on a military base before.
It's fun to see the mutual excitement. You know, the players are all can't wait to meet and talk to the servicemen and women. And conversely, the servicemen and women are excited to get to rub shoulders with major league players and talk to them and hang with them a little bit. It's awesome.
Full count pitch to Johnson. Ibar, long throw right on the money. Good play by Eric Ibar to get Johnson and end the inning. Going to the bottom of the second. No score. In 1918, more than 55,000 active members of the military are here, including their families, civilians, and so forth. More than 250,000 people. Fort Bragg covers 500 square miles and is home of the Airborne and Special Operation Forces. It is the largest military installation in the United States. And the person in charge of it, we are very lucky to have here in the booth with us tonight, Lieutenant General Stephen J. Townsend. General, thank you very much for joining us. This is a great honor for us to be here.
It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. We appreciate it. What does this mean to you? What does this mean to everybody here at Fort Bragg?
Well, you know, it's Independence Day weekend. We are America's rapid response force here at Fort Bragg, Airborne and Special Operations Forces, like you said, and this is America's favorite pastime. I can't think of a better combination of things to come together.
And when you think about all the different things that you do here at Fort Bragg, I got a chance to experience some of them, but what would you say stands out most to you in particular from Fort Bragg?
Well, I think our sort of tagline, our bumper sticker, kind of says it all. Home of America's Airborne and Special Operations Forces. So the forces, our Army's forces in the highest state of readiness live here at Fort Bragg. So when crisis comes and leaders in Washington need a military response, they call for their armed forces, the first phone call rings here.
When you heard about the planning for this event, or when it was first brought to you, what was your reaction? What was your involvement in all of this?
Well, our great garrison commander, Colonel Brett Funk, first brought it to me. He and his recreation director Ray Lacey, got phone calls from Major League Baseball, and they brought the idea to me. We all immediately said, this is fantastic, let's do it, except one problem: we don't have a ball field. We got a bunch of softball fields, but we don't have a baseball field. And Colonel Funk reported to me, the Major League Baseball guy said, not a problem, we'll build one.
How'd they do?
So, fantastic. Look at this. This is incredible. This has been under work less than 130 days.
That's incredible. Incredible.
It is incredible.
And
This was an overgrown old golf course, gone to seed, and they've turned it into this beautiful ball field.
And a number of active members of the military here are part of the grounds crew tonight, right? They're
That's
helping
right.
out.
Yes, they are.
So, and they're really good at getting the tarp on and off the field, we understand, if there's any rain.
There are a lot of soldiers helping out here and family members helping out here tonight.
Well, we've got a present. We want to thank you for hosting us here. So we've got a bat we would like to present to you, commemorating the Fort Bragg game. We'll turn that around so folks on TV can see it. It has been a treat for us to be here.
Yes.
And we can hear, we were talking a little bit before about, a lot of the people here never imagined that a Major League Baseball game would come here. You can hear the oohs and ahs every time the ball is put in play. How much fun people are having here watching this game.
Yeah, it's great, and they are going to eat it up tonight here, and hopefully this is something that our armed forces and our Major League Baseball can find a way to do again in the future somewhere.
And this field is going to be put to good use after this game tonight, right?
It is. We're going to turn this into, we're going to keep this field and expand it into a series of softball fields. Over the course of this war in the last 15 years, we've lost some softball fields due to barracks construction, and we're going to recoup that here.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Lieutenant General Townsend. We'll be back after this.
During this period of instructions, I will explain, demonstrate, and conduct the practical movements in the movement right face. Right face is the two-part command is made with preparatory command and the command execution. Right face sounds like this. Right. Hey! Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Boom, you sound like a Girl Scout. Let's sound off. Do everybody understand that?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Very good. Right. Hey! Boom! 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 It would be you. What did you do before you came into the Army? Play baseball or something?
Something like that.
Something like that.
12 years in the big leagues, sir.
12 years in the big league, so you think you're a hot shot, huh?
Not really.
Indicators and by the numbers. Right. 8. 1. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. I know this is an airborne unit, but you do not have to mimic a C-130. Right. Everybody give a phone a round of applause. Tighten up. Right. Hey. Forward. Launch. Left. 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 Right. Left. Left. Left.
How much fun did you have doing that?
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, and then to get to hang around with those guys for the next couple of hours. Jess came in and did the obstacle course, and
which we'll see a little bit later on.
Which we'll see a little bit later, but being able to rub shoulders, I didn't know what to expect. It was a day I'll never forget being around those guys.
I think my favorite part of the whole thing is that the second time you get in trouble for almost tipping over, that wasn't on purpose.
That was just a whoops-a-daisy.
Yeah. That's outstanding.
I was kind of hoping there'd be like a punishment, like, all right, get down and give me 30 push-ups right now.
Run a hill or something.
Boom! Boom! That's how he greeted me when I showed up.
Well, let's just say this, because obviously Jess has done it and we know what Jess did and we're going to see it. You got the easier job yesterday.
I got the easier. And I want to give a big thanks to First Sergeant Jackson, putting me through those steps and teaching me a little something. It was a lot of fun.
Danny Hechavarria leads off the third inning for the Marlins. No score here at Fort Bragg if you're just joining us. The first ever professional sporting event held on an active military base in this country as Hechavarria sends a fly ball center field. Darno, really more of an infielder, but playing a fair bit of outfield recently. Tracks back shy of the warning track to make the catch one down. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Line & Kugel's Summer Shandy and Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Push button, get mortgage. We also want to thank Mother Nature for holding off on the weather, because it was a major concern earlier today. You don't want to knock on wood. I know. Don't jinx it too early, but there was some thunder and lightning throughout the late morning and early afternoon, but so far so good here at Fort Bragg Field. Adam Conley is the batter, the Marlins pitcher. He is 0 for 26 this year, but he does have a big league hit that came last year, and his first big league hit came off the guy he's facing right now, Matt Whistler. You know what? He just flat out owns Matt Whistler. How about that?
And you know that he knows it too. Both of them. And Conley, the big lefty, he doesn't need to take a big hacks. A lot of times you see pitchers take one, just simply doesn't even use his lower half, just hands of the ball.
That is a rocket, Jess.
So the first hit he's had each of the last 2 seasons has come off the same guy.
Guy's 0 for 26. Like Jess Mendoza up there.
Second hit of the night for the Marlins, and back to the top of the order for the catcher, Real Muto. Freeman playing behind Conley at first as Real Muto looks at a strike. The Atlanta Braves, as everybody knows, got up to a dreadful start this year. They started the year 0-9. They were 9-28 when Freddie Gonzalez was let go. Brian Snitker taking over as the manager, a guy with 40 years in the Atlanta Braves organization as a minor league manager and a major league coach. He calls himself a 60-year-old rookie because for the first time he is managing at the major league level, so he is the interim manager. And as you can see, they've been pretty respectable since. They've made a ton of trades. It's a total rebuilding job. They've got a new ballpark opening next year. But he loves the positivity and the attitude and the determination that his team is bringing to the ballpark every day, regardless of what the result was the night before.
Well, talking to Braves players, they said nothing against Freddie Gonzalez. The biggest thing was just the fact that was, will he be fired, was always hung over their heads every day. Will you have a manager when you show up the next day? So now just knowing that they have someone that will consistently be there, that it's a moot point, it's not something the media is constantly talking to them about, some kind of settle in, just play baseball, not be dealing with the distractions what a manager can bring.
And a swing and a miss. There is strikeout number 5 for Whistler. Tuesday, our Baseball Tonight crew will reveal the American and National League All-Star teams at 7 Eastern on ESPN. They'll break down both lineups with all the stats and information like only they can. The Esurance All-Star Selection Show also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app.
Dan, you talk about the rebuilding job going on for the Atlanta Braves as they get ready to move into a new ballpark next season with an eye towards starting to get more and more competitive. One guy that I think is going to play a major role as the Braves become more and more competitive and hopefully get back to the days where they were a dominant franchise. Matt Whistler, if you haven't seen him yet, we're seeing him tonight. This is a guy that is a big part of their future.
Long throw from short, and Ibar's made his second good play of the night already. Prado retired, and the Marlins are gone in the top of the third. Presented by Taco Bell. Welcome back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the country's largest military installation. The first time that a Major League Baseball game, or any professional sporting event for that matter, has ever been played on an active military base. A joint initiative between Major League Baseball and the Players Association, and it has come together beautifully. And we are pleased to be joined now by the Commissioner of Baseball, Rob Manfred. Commissioner, thanks for joining us. And what's today been like for you?
Well, it's been a fantastic day. It's really a unique chance for baseball, the baseball family, to say thank you to our servicemen and women. I have to say, I got here, I saw the field for the first time, just thrilled by the visual of this field. I think it's fantastic.
Matt Whistler lines one, so the pitchers are 2 for 2 here. They're liking this field. Go ahead, Jess.
How would you describe your interactions with the troops, with their families, kind of in and around the park, especially tonight?
Well, it's just unbelievable when you have a chance to talk to a number of generals, which I did today, very exciting in and of itself. You realize how they got to be generals, because the leadership qualities that just ooze from these people are unbelievable. With respect to people further down the ranks, I think the thing that strikes me is their commitment to serving their country. I mean, it's just unbelievable how committed and patriotic these young people are. I'm actually sitting with a young man who's from the town where we live, happens to be stationed here, and he was talking about his cousin who's also in the military and how excited he was to have a chance to go back to Afghanistan. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the devotion to our country.
We had lunch with a colonel yesterday that is going back to Afghanistan, and it's the same thing. It's just, this is what I do, this is the calling that they had. I think we've all been blown away by this weekend and then getting here and seeing this beautiful field. When did this begin? What was the genesis of all this?
It began over a year ago. Tony Petitti, who's the COO at baseball, came to me with a broader idea that it would be good to take baseball, Major League games, to places where we don't ordinarily play them. And I thought that was a great idea, and we talked about various possibilities in terms of what made sense, but Tony came up with the idea of doing it on a military base, and everybody jumped on that idea. You know, 4th of July, baseball, our military, just seemed like a great mix.
Broken bat, one hopper to short, and the Marlins will turn a double play. I can't imagine how big an undertaking this was, though, and how many people spent how many hundreds and thousands of hours making this actually happen.
Yeah, it was a huge undertaking. You know, number one, I have to say, the Major League Baseball Players Association got on board with us right at the beginning of this project. We have some joint funds that we use to market the game. Everybody wanted to devote whatever was necessary to make this game happen. So they were tremendously helpful. You know, Tony Petitti really managed the project, but Murray Cook, our field guy, basically lived here. When you walk the outfield here,
yes. Impressive. Very
it's
impressive.
Really impressive. Really impressive. And you know, great cooperation from the folks here at Fort Bragg. I mean, it's not easy to do something on a nor should it be on a military base, but we got an unbelievable level of cooperation to make the project work.
So you said you're looking to take games to non-traditional. So there are plans in the future. I'm not going to ask you to divulge them, but to maybe do other unusual things going forward.
That's exactly right. We think that you know, our 30 cities, 30 markets are great. But there's a lot of places where people don't get to see Major League Baseball, and we think there are interesting places we could go to attract buzz around the game.
Well, Commissioner, we want to thank you for including us in this. This has been a tremendous thrill and honor for us. We've got a small token of our appreciation, a Fort Bragg bat that we've had made for you that hopefully you can take back to the office.
Well, thank you very much. I got a bat rack in my office, and this one's going on that bat rack.
Commissioner, I got to say, this has been amazing, so it'll be tough to top this one going forward, but I can't wait to see what you guys come up with next.
We got some pretty creative people who are pretty focused on this as an important idea for the game. You know, you know, every event that we're doing now, and this was no exception, we try to build youth events around them. And so not only are you taking the game out there and letting people see the game, but we try to do youth things so the kids can touch the game, and it's important to building that next generation of fans. There are a lot of kids running around here with play ball t-shirts on, in case you didn't notice.
Oh yeah, tons.
Yeah.
Strike 3 called to end the inning. Commissioner, thank you very much. Congratulations on this coming off as beautifully as it did.
Thanks, Dan. It was really fun.
Bragg going to the top of the fourth, the Iron Mike statue honoring many of the soldiers who have served here at Fort Bragg. And as Commissioner Manfred mentioned, there is a component involving youth baseball in all of this. And yesterday, Chevrolet hosted a youth baseball clinic for the Fort Bragg community. Chevrolet and its dealers are proud to support the military and youth baseball. To learn more, visit ChevySalutes.com. This is more than just a win or even a win-win. This is a win on every level that you look at it, from the players being excited to be here, to the kids getting involved with the clinic, to the players getting a chance to tour and meeting members of the military. It's a win on every level.
And the partnership between Major League Baseball and the Players Association, which if you think back just 10 years ago, probably it's unfathomable to think about something like that happening.
Top of the fourth, no score. The Marlins and Braves, the final game of a 4-game series, if you will. The first 3 having been played in Atlanta. The Braves won 2 of the first 3. And 3-4-5 for Miami. This is Christian Yelich, who lined one into center field for a base at his first time up.
You guys both talked about how great this Miami Marlins offense has been. This is the guy I really circle when you think about the future of this team and the kind of hitter that he is. Such a beautiful, natural swing. And even talking to him pregame, guys, he said he never even had a hitting lesson. He never had a coach tell him how to hit until he got to pro ball. No one in his family played baseball. His dad, his brothers, nobody. He just picked up a bat, picked it up left-handed, and just had a feel for the game. That tells you how great and pure his swing is.
And he's got himself another base hit. We heard him talk about his next younger brother, who was a Marine. Buster talked about that. And then his youngest brother is actually in the minor league system with the Atlanta Braves right now.
Well, and watch on this pitch, it's a fastball high. And watch just his hands and his ability just to get to the ball. I mean, it sounds so simple, but that is exactly his feel, his natural ability. A guy that's able to take a pitch that's not easy to hit, and he just simplifies it, getting it to contact and finding a hole through the infield.
Jess, we talked early in this game that Whistler really wants to establish the inside part of the plate, especially the left-handed hitters. He made the pitch he wanted to. He got up, he got in. Yelich just put a perfect swing on it.
Waving at it is Marcell Ozuna, who struck out back in the first inning. Whistler's already got 5 strikeouts through 3 innings. No runs, 3 hits for the Marlins. No runs, 2 hits for the Braves. The Marlins coming in at 42-39 on the season. The Dodgers lead the National League wildcard race right now. The Mets have the 2nd spot. And then you've got teams like the Marlins and the Cardinals not far out at all. This is a legitimate playoff contender. They've already made one move. Picked up Fernando Rodney a few days ago to bolster that bullpen. As you can see, they are 2 back of the Mets right now for the 2nd wildcard spot. How about the Mets, who pounded the Cubs today and just swept a 4-game series from the Cubs.
22 hits today alone against, John Lester. Not all of them were against Lester, but they came out firing from the first inning.
Hit 5 home runs in the game.
Lester and Arrieta the last 2 days.
Yep. Swing and a miss again. Boy, Whistler's got Ozuna's number right now.
It's been the slider, and it's the pitch that Ozuna struck out on his last at bat. And you can just tell Ozuna's not recognizing it. And this is where Whistler does such a great job of his arm glove side being able to paint that fastball, so he sets up the slider to be able to fool hitters.
Fouled back.
A lot of times, Booney, when we see the slider from pitchers, we'll see it kind of have that depth and kind of have more of that vertical break. And for Whistler right now, he's really been working it more horizontally, sometimes leaving it further up in the zone. But I think that's been part of the deception in that same tunnel as the fastball.
Ground ball toward third. Only play is to first. And Ozuna retired as Yelich takes second. Let's check a look now at the MLB calendar. 1 week from tonight, it's the 2016 SiriusXM All-Star Futures Game. 7 o'clock Eastern Time on MLB Network. The Home Run Derby a week from tomorrow right here on ESPN. The Red Carpet Show presented by Chevrolet Tuesday night preceding the All-Star Game, 7:30 p.m. on the 12th on Fox. Hard to believe it's almost the All-Star break. Here's Giancarlo Stanton, struck out his first time up. He has now struck out 99 times in 253 at-bats on the season. Takes a breaking ball in for a strike. Whistler is throwing that slider a lot, and he's throwing it very effectively.
And you see Giancarlo there on that take. He wasn't taking automatically, but his balance has been off. It's the same way he struck out his first time. Oh! When he sets that front leg down, he kind of falls back to the dugout because he's off balance. He's got to get more through the ball, and that's when that great power takes over and can crush other teams.
Now the slider misses down and away, 2 balls and a strike. See the big scoreboard out beyond the left field fence. Again, it's amazing what they did here in the last 4 months, putting this ballpark together.
Whistler is feeling that slider. 3 in a row right now to Stanton. He went 3 in a row to end Ozuna's at bat.
Whistler coming in 3-7 with a 4.14 ERA. Got out of the first inning unscathed. That had been a big problem for him this year. A first inning ERA over 7, down around 3.5 after that. So no damage done in the first inning here tonight. He's had some very good moments, including an 8-inning stint where he allowed only 1 hit on May the 3rd against the Mets. So this guy, as Aaron said, this guy's a part of the future. This is a part of the rebuilding program right now for the Atlanta Braves. On that slider, and a fly ball to right field will be tracked down by Markakis for the second out. Yelich will tag and come to third.
And guys, this year Giancarlo Stanton has seen the highest percentage of sliders in baseball. About a quarter of the pitches, 25%, have been sliders.
And it has been a frustrating half season so far for one of the game's great sluggers, no doubt about that. 2 down in the inning and a runner at third, and the batter will be Derek Dietrich, the second baseman, who hit a fly ball to right field his first time up. And we asked Don Mattingly before the game, once D. Gordon comes back, eligible July the 28th, then what? Dietrich's played really well. Gordon, that won the batting title last year in the National League. And Mattingly talked about Dietrich being able to play some other spots, a little third, a little first, maybe even a little left. And one other thing to keep in mind about players who come back from suspensions, PED suspensions, they are ineligible for the postseason. Now you got to get there first, but D. Gordon will not be allowed to play in the playoffs should the Marlins advance to the playoffs. It'll obviously just make them a deeper and stronger team. But it's not the easiest thing in the world to figure out how you're going to handle it.
No, and even if D. Gordon, let's say he picks up where he left off and is still the dynamic player that we've seen the last couple of years, you've still got to be able to work Dietrich into the mix if you expect to be a playoff team, because he'll play a pivotal role come October. So I think you're going to see potentially both Dietrich and D. Gordon playing a lot of different positions. So you keep them both in the lineup, you get their bats in the lineup, you get D. Gordon's potential upside in the lineup, but you're keeping Dietrich fresh and solid and regular looks from second base.
Ball 4.
There's ball 4. Well, it would mean on most nights one of them would probably be on the bench. You've got Ichiro on the bench. Most nights you've got Chris Johnson on the bench because Justin Moore is at first place. Moore's nursing a leg injury right now. All of a sudden Don Mattingly has a lot of options to turn to off the bench.
Yeah, and you could see D. Gordon playing some first base, even playing some left field, and the same with Dietrich, moving around. But it'll certainly give Mattingly some good matchup options, and that bench will just get a little bit deeper.
Do you think there's more moves in the Marlins? They picked up Rodney already. Are they going to go out and get a starting pitcher? That's one thing that it certainly looks like they could use at the back end of the rotation.
I think they'll be in on some. I think they're absolutely on the phones. I think they're willing to add to the payroll. Now, whether they end up getting a starting pitcher because there's not a lot of starting pitchers necessarily on the market to this point. Impact starting pitchers. You know, you hear Sonny Gray's name sometimes. You hear Tehran for Atlanta, but mostly it's middle of the rotation, back end of the rotations guy. If they're in on someone, I think it'll be someone hot.
Buster, what do you think?
Yeah, and they are on the phone, and they're having conversations about guys who can stabilize the rotation. One of the issues for the Marlins is, according to executives with other teams, they don't have a lot of great prospects at the top of their farm system. So a guy like Jeremy Hellickson might be someone that they talk about, or maybe some of the Tampa Bay Rays pitchers, Matt Moore. And one name that might pop up, I think in fact it has internally, CC Sabathia, in case the Yankees sell.
Chopper towards short. Been a busy night so far for Ibar, and he keeps making plays. So the Marlins leave a couple of men on. We'll go to the bottom of the fourth. Still no score here at Fort Bragg. Bragg, they didn't go so easy on Jess, her being the athlete of the crew, so they had her really get after it. How tough was this?
You know, it was. I went straight from the flying in, joining these guys, and the best is, look at, I mean, the teamwork. I was like, I got to do this. There were times where I was like, I don't think, this is Big Bertha. Okay, this tire, look at Booney behind me. Shades on.
Did you see me peel off there?
Yeah.
I wanted to go move it, but then I'm like, if Jess just pushed this Big Bertha over and I come up and fail, it's not going to look very good. So I peeled it off. But you were good.
I thought for sure like he was going to be a part of some of it, like jumping in, like push-ups, climbing the rope. They didn't show us climbing the rope. That was pretty cool. It was the hardest thing.
I saw the video of that. That was hard.
It was really hard. And climbing that wall, I mean, it's intimidating. I kind of got stuck there, but they helped me. They helped me over. But it was fun. I was sore. I'm not gonna lie.
Freddie Freeman drives the ball deep left center field, off the wall on a bounce. And Freeman, who right now is about as tough and out as there is in baseball, 2 for 2 with a single and a double tonight.
What I like so much about Freddie Freeman's swing right now, his approach, everything about it. Watch him sit. This is 89 miles per hour. We saw it with his last hit, his last at bat, but watch how deep he's going to let this ball travel almost to that front knee right there. He's just seeing it so well, but so powerful, hitting deep into his body to drive this off the wall in left center.
Guys, I had a conversation with Freddie Freeman yesterday, and he was so self-deprecating. He said, I know what the problem is when I don't hit. I swing at pitchers' pitches. If I don't swing at pitchers' pitches, I'm better.
Well, if it were only that easy for everybody, but at times it appears to be that easy for Freddie Freeman, who came into the game tonight hitting .423 since June 15th, and he's 2 for 2 tonight. And one issue that Conley has had, it's called reverse splits. He has more trouble getting lefties out than righties. Lefties are hitting almost 100 points higher off him this season than righties.
Well, the only thing that I see with Freeman right now, if you want to get him out, is you're going to come in tight inside that fastball. And that's the one area that Conley has showed, is that arm side ability to locate his fastball. He'll do it with righties, but against lefties, even right now with Markakis, he's got to be able to get that fastball inside.
It's funny because there have been comparisons, mostly in terms of his motion, although he's got very good stuff. But there have been some comparisons to Chris Sale. And Chris Sale looks about as uncomfortable and at bat as a left-handed batter could ever have in his life, short of maybe Randy Johnson back in the day. Conley is kind of like Sale, looks like he's all arms and legs and he's slinging it from the side, but he's not been able to have a lot of success this year against lefties. Makes a nice play and then goes for the out at first. They had Freeman hung up, and he'll slide into third as the ball is dropped by Prado. Man, it looked like they had Freeman easily out at second base.
This is a great job actually by Connolly of freezing the runner and then going to first base with it. And this is a play that the Marlins should have completed. He does his job and doesn't panic and throws a strike to first base. And Chris Johnson comes up and makes a strong throw. And I think they have Freddie Freeman if Martin Prado can handle that throw. But I thought Conley did a nice job of getting his momentum pushed back to second base, not panicking, throwing a strike. The Marlins just didn't execute from there.
It's just, there's no error on the play. The runner just takes third on the ground out is the scoring. I mean, he made a great play to freeze him, but then he didn't make the play he had to make to either run at him or throw to second.
I saw him almost throw. I mean, he froze him. I thought for sure they're getting me out. But Freeman, you got to give him some credit. Not a ton of speed, but that's not an easy thing to do, to stop your momentum, come back, return it, and shift it back into third.
Yeah, but if they play catch, he's out.
Yeah.
So if you're Conley, all you want to do is stop his momentum. If you don't record that out, then all of a sudden you're first and second, first and third.
So you're saying he went to first thinking they could get two outs on the play?
Well, I think he felt, I stopped his momentum. He can't get to third base. And the reality is, if they play an advanced game of catch here, he's out at third base too. I thought Conley did enough.
The batter is Garcia. And the infield has come into a certain extent, halfway, maybe a little bit closer than that, with a runner at third, one out, no score here in the bottom of the fourth. Garcia with a fly ball to center his first time up. Ground ball to short. No chance for Freeman to come home. Two down. Baseball's two biggest summer events back-to-back. The T-Mobile Home Run Derby on ESPN July 11th at 8 Eastern. And the very next night, don't miss baseball's biggest stars at the 87th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard July 12th on Fox. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern time.
You know, and getting back to the comparisons with Chris Sale, I think the one thing, Conley doesn't quite hide the ball as much as Chris Sale. Doesn't get quite the shoulder turn. So he hit another batter. So he doesn't have that overwhelming deception against left-handed hitters. And then his slider is more of that north to south action as we look at this replay. Again, trying to come in to the right-hander and catching the jersey of Tyler Flowers. So he's off to first base. That's 9 now on the season. 9 batters that he's hit. But I think one thing they want is they want him to be able to get more side to side on his slider. Right now it's more north and south, and a nasty pitch, especially to right-handed hitters. But if he can start that pitch on the inside part and break it across the plate to lefties, I feel like those reverse splits will come to an end.
And that to me is where not only Chris Sale but Madison Bumgarner stands out, is his ability to work that slider away to lefties, especially horizontally, so it's more of a bait pitch instead of something you recognize out of the hand is you don't want to swing at.
The batter is Jeff Francoeur, who's back where he started. Came up in the Braves organization and made his major league debut in 2005. Has been a lot of places since. Mets, Rangers, Royals, Giants, Padres, Phillies. Hitting over 300 this season against lefties.
Oh.
Man, he's been around.
Yeah, back-to-back fastballs in here. Watch this slider now off that plane to try and get the chase.
Ground ball to short, and the short way to second to force the runner and end the inning as the Braves leave a couple of men on. When we come back, Buster Olney will interview a young man who has played some minor league baseball, and he serves right here at Fort Bragg. Bragg, a young man by the name of Alex Robinette, was a relief pitcher in the Yankees organization for the Staten Island Yankees. Also has been commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. He serves with the 82nd Airborne Division right here at Fort Bragg. As Matt Whistler faces Adeni Hechavarria to start the 5th inning. And a drive off the wall in center field. Hechavarria hit that one a ton on his way to third and in there standing up. There's some action here for the Marlins. As mentioned, Alex Robinette, both a professional baseball player and a member of the U.S. Army, and he's standing by with Buster Olney.
He's also a graduate of West Point. Lieutenant, what's this been like, this event here at Fort Bragg?
No, it's a great event, you know, going into Independence Day weekend. I know the soldiers out here enjoying it. I got a few guys from my unit out here. It's just a good event to be here.
Now, how much were you monitoring the building of this field?
I actually only saw it once when they brought me out here to film a little short segment. Other than that, I haven't seen much of it. It's a good, great stadium, though.
What was it like to get back on the mound during that shooting?
Now, this is the first time I've been on the mound in about 10 months, you know, throwing seriously. Might have blown out my arm, but, you know, I got a good shot, so it was worth it.
So where are you now in your military service?
I'm fairly new. I'm only just over a year into my military service. I just got to my battery, and I'm just beginning my actual position as a fire directions officer. So it's just still all brand new to me.
I read interviews where you talked about how important your service is to you.
Right, you know, wanted to give back, you know, and surround myself with soldiers and people who are willing to put on this uniform. And I just want to be with the best out there, you know, and try to raise myself to their level.
What do you see about baseball in your future?
I don't see any baseball in my future other than, you know, being a fan. I'm 100% committed to the military and the soldiers I got the privilege of leading, and that's all I want to do right now and focus on. I don't ever see myself going back to baseball.
What was it like in 2015 pitching 14 games of minors for the Yankees?
No, it was a lot of fun, and I'm very appreciative that the Yankees gave me the opportunity to do that. And it was a great change from college. It was a lot more relaxed, believe it or not. And I met a lot of great guys there and a lot of good memories, and I definitely enjoyed my time.
Lieutenant, thanks. Dan, back to you.
Buster, thank you. Great stuff. Terrific story. Like he had a pretty good breaking ball right there.
Nice little slider.
Meanwhile, a triple for Echeverria to begin the 5th inning. Connolly grounds out. The infield is in for the Braves, and this is Real Muto, the leadoff hitter, who has struck out twice tonight. The Marlins looking to score the game's first run. Scoreless here in the top of the 5th inning. Nice pickup by Flowers behind the plate.
With that infield playing in, and obviously runs at a premium here in the middle of the game. Whistler trying to work the inside part of that plate with the fastball and then to set up the slider to try and get weak contact, but missing his spots on back-to-back pitches, and Real Muto now can really set his sights up and out over the plate.
Upset with himself that he went after that slider down and away.
Well, it's a good job by Whistler, who that's the window that Real Muto was looking in. But because of the tight break on that pitch, a pitch that's been outstanding all night long, Real Muto commits a little bit early to it and breaks down and out of the zone.
Out of play, 2-2.
It just shows you the confidence that Matt Whistler has in his slider. And 2-0, 2 pitches prior, a fastball count. Usually you'll see a pitcher want to go with his best pitch, and right now Whistler very confident in that slider, now throwing it back to back.
Echeverria, the runner at third, 1 out here in the top of the 5th inning. Out of play again.
Got away with one there. He wanted to, after getting 2 strikes there, wanted to get the chase again. That ball kind of hung in the middle of the plate, but because with 2 strikes, Real Muto's trying to see the ball for a long time. The ball backs up on him, ties him up just enough to turn it into a foul ball, but that's a pitch that you want to get in the air in the outfield.
That's what he does here. Is it deep enough? It's actually dropping in for a base hit. And the run will score on a bloop single to shallow right center for Real Muto, and it's 1-0 Marlins.
Well, the outfield is playing pretty shallow, actually, and the ball hasn't carried that well tonight. This ball's a little bit off the end of the bat. It looks like another good pitch to get into the air, but I don't think Markakis, who's a very good outfielder, reads this ball right away. Kind of a slow break on it. If he gets a nice jump on this with his arm, he's behind that ball, and Echeverria might not have been able to score, but that little bit of hesitation turns it into a bloop single in the first run of this game.
So 1-0 Miami. The batter now Martin Prado, who's 0 for 2, a strikeout and a ground out. And he lines it over the head of a leaping Peterson into right center, a base hit. And back safely at second after rounding the bag is Real Muto. First and second for the Marlins.
Yeah, and Real Muto should have kept on going here. This ball is taking a right-handed thrower in Chase d'Arnaud to the right center gap, so it would have been very difficult for him to get around the ball to get anything really on this throw. Real Muto runs pretty well for a catcher. I think, especially with 1 out where you really want to get to third base, I think he would have made it, because I don't know if d'Arnaud could have got enough on the throw to get him at third base.
Well, the Marlins with a run in and looking for more here in the 5th inning. And now heading into the heart of the lineup, really, with Christian Yelich coming up. Yelich is 2 for 2 already in this game. First pitch swinging, and he pops it foul left side and back out of play.
What's Yelich now? 5 for 6 in his career against Whistler. So it'll be interesting to see how they attack him with runners out there now. We've seen him go out over the plate where Yelich first pitch lined one back through the middle. And last time with 2 strikes made the pitch on that corner that they wanted to, but he was able to drive it into right field for a base hit. So see if he tries to mix in some off-speed pitches and perhaps works a different corner.
That's twice now they've gone up and in. Yelich late on that pitch because he's got to protect anything off speed or anything middle away, but I think that sets up the slider. Because now if you're 0-2 as a hitter, you know that you got to get the barrel out and anything that might come inside.
Oh-2. Fouled off. Third base side.
The thing is, what's frustrating for Whistler, though, is he's executing pitches right now. But Yelich is just spoiling tough pitches. So eventually, if you make a mistake on the plate, he's in position to drive it to any and all fields. That's what's so tough.
Whistler just went 10 miles an hour difference. Same exact location, and Yelich picked it up enough just to waste it, like you said.
And another sharply hit ball off the bat of Yelich, his third hit. Realmude trying to come home and will slide in ahead of the throw. Yelich 3 for 3, and the Marlins lead 2-0.
Jess, that's just a big boy at bat, and you're seeing the continued development of a star player. Eventually, I think he's going to come into more power as he gets older, fills out. But this is just spoiling tough pitches, getting behind in the count. Whistler made a bunch of good pitches and then misses on the plate with this slider, and he is in position to nail it. This ball smoked through the right side. Lenny Harris there getting down the line, aggressively sending his catcher, again, that runs well, even though Markakis throws pretty well in right field. And another run here for the Marlins on another really nice at bat for Christian Yelich. We take a look at our K-zone, those last 3 pitches. Fastball on the corner, up and in. Slider breaking in off the plate, and then he gets that slider on the plate and down, and you can tell Christian Yelich really sees the ball well off Matt Whistler. Now 6 for 7 in his career against him.
So 2-0 Marlins. 2 men on, 1 out, of the batter is Marcell Ozuna, 0 for 2.
Jess, you know, my favorite part of that story, talking about Yelich being a self-taught hitter, what he told us was that when he was playing coach pitch for the first time, he actually was going to quit baseball at 8 or 9, and then in what he thought he was going to be his last at bat, his parents offered him $5 if he got a hit. That extended his baseball career.
Yeah, he was scared of the ball. He said he hated baseball, and he was like, I'm done, I don't want to play anymore. And his parents said, well, you're not going to quit, and I'll give you $5, like you said, Buster. And so his last game, he got a hit, and he said it was a little dribbler too. Like, he was so scared, and he just made contact. And after that, he's like, for some reason, the fear was gone.
He's going to wind up making a lot more than $5 because of that one hit that he got way back then.
And Buster asked him that. Can you imagine if your parents let you quit?
Ozuna strikes out. Follow live baseball with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet.
Those hats are sweet.
They are.
Right there, huh?
Here's Giancarlo Stanton. And a slider for a strike. Stanton is struck out and flied out. Oh, and 2 the count.
There's just no balance just to that swing. You know, that foot comes down and he's kind of falling towards the dugout. and that's something that's correctable. And as soon as that starts to get more consistent, I think we'll see the Giancarlo in the second half that has been missing.
How does that get out of whack, though, for a guy who's had so much success?
I don't know. And look, for as great as Giancarlo has been in his career, he hasn't been an unbelievable from a hit tool standpoint. His power and bat speed and strength is just so overwhelming. But he's had periods where he's struggled, never quite this much. And look, I think it's just a matter of time where he finds that timing, finds that rhythm, starts consistently getting his foot down on time, and when that happens, the great talent will start to show up, and I think you'll see him go on a run where he carries a ball club like we've seen him do in the past.
Popped up for Peterson, and the inning is over, but it's a good one for the Marlins. They put 2 on the board and lead 2-0 going bottom 5. $55,000 active members of the military, one of the many units critical to the operation of the 82nd Airborne Division, which is housed here as the 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade. At Fort Bragg, they fly and maintain 24 Apache helicopters to provide aviation support to ground forces. And we had a flyover from 4 of those Apache helicopters before the game tonight. 2-0. The Marlins lead the Braves. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, as Eric Ibar drops one into center field, a leadoff base hit. It's a huge place, as we told you, about 500 square miles, 250,000 people, including active members of the military, civilians, volunteers, family members, retirees, and so forth. 8 schools here on the base. More than 3 million meals are made annually, and we're told 6 to 8 babies on average are born every day here on the base.
A lot of people.
Whistler gets the bunt down, and then a high throw by Real Muto into center field. So everybody is safe, and if he makes a good throw, they might get 2, because Whistler wasn't really getting out of the box. Instead, they get nobody.
No doubt about it. And Real Muto actually does a good job because he knows he has plenty of time. So he actually doesn't rush the throw, but he loses his mechanics. The ball just out in front of home plate. Watch the arm drop. Watch the elbow drop. And that ball just sails up and away. And he knows right away he's made a poor throw. But I like the fact that he did not rush because they would have been able to turn 2. Just poor execution on the throw.
Fielder's choice E2 is the scoring. So first and second, nobody out. Atlanta trying to answer back after the Marlins scored 2 in the top half of the inning. The batter is Jace Peterson, 0 for 2 tonight on a 13-game hitting streak coming in. He shows bunt and takes a strike on the inside corner with an ease.
Peterson doesn't like that, but that pitch is on the corner according to K-Zone, and that's a pitch so important to Connolly. Because he doesn't throw that sweeping breaking ball to lefties, establishing the inside part of the plate, critical.
Fouled off 0-2. Peterson giving Atlanta a lot of offense since he was called back up to the majors on the 10th of June. Try to at least find a way to advance the runners here if he can. Conley out in front of him, 0-2. Fouled off again.
See that pitch right there? That's his slider, which is it's a good pitch, and especially to righties. But it's so small. If he could somehow start this pitch on the inside part and sweep it across the plate, then he would start dominating lefties. But that's just subtle movement that starts on the outer half and kind of just gets to the corner, so it allows that lefty to stay on it.
Don Mattingly, first-year manager of the Marlins after his time in L.A. On the left, on the right, Tim Wallach.
Came with him from L.A.
Bench coach.
Booney, when you look at Conley's slider and his ability, it's not that even so much that it's a bad pitch, it's just not a put-away pitch. And it's a put-away pitch to righties. And against lefties, as you see right now, I mean, Jace Peterson able to stay in this at-bat against 2 sliders that he's able to make contact with versus the strikeout pitch that we see from a lot of strong lefties.
0-2, lefty on lefty here, and I think when you have the stuff and ability that Conley has, a left-handed hitter should feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And I don't think that's the case yet.
One and 2 the count on Peterson. And he chases a ball in the dirt to strike out for out number 1. Second strikeout of the night for Conley.
Well, here's a look at the slider. He finally does get the chase. Again, it's not a sweeping slider. It's more of that north-south. That one he likes to use to put away right-handed hitters. Here, Peterson, a hot hitter, just cannot hold up. You see way out in front, down in the dirt. Real Muto able to block it on the backhand.
So a big first out here in the bottom of the 5th. Now the batter is the center fielder Chase Darno, who's been hit by a pitch and has been called out on strikes. Atlanta's now 0 for 6 tonight with runners in scoring position. They are the worst offensive team in baseball, 3.4 runs per game. They have hit only 43 home runs all season. The next fewest entering play today, San Francisco with 69. Consider that Baltimore hit 56 in the month of June alone. It has been a major struggle offensively. The pitching is respectable, middle of the pack in the National League. The offense is dead last.
Now you're taking a look at Freddie Freeman, who carries this offense, and with his struggles, I think is reflected of the team's struggles. He gets up to bat right now, runners in scoring position. He's had 2 great at-bats against Conley. And that's the guy that the Braves want up to bat.
A wave going around the ballpark again. $12,500 people here at Fort Bragg Field. High fly ball down the left field line. Yelich back on the warning track, makes the catch for out number 2, just in fair territory. That's the second out of the inning. Now time for Bringing It Home, brought to you by Quicken Loans. And the best guy in this Atlanta lineup at Bringing It Home is Freddie Freeman. Struggled at the beginning of the season, but really hot lately, and by far the most familiar name and the most productive hitter they have on this team right now.
You see that .376 batting average with runners in scoring position, and here, even though the Marlins have a 2-run lead, excuse me, that's last season, of course, that .376 average, this is the guy you're still going to pitch carefully to, especially with some of the swings he's already had against you tonight.
Well, Buster said earlier that the biggest difference for Freddie is not chasing pitches out of the zone. He mentioned, you know, I haven't had a lot of protection, and I have to recognize that teams are not going to give me the pitches I want. And this is that situation right here. So we'll test. Conley's going to test that patience, because I don't think they're going to give him what he wants. That's probably middle away fastball.
It's a Braves home game here tonight. It's starting to sound like one. A lot of the fans starting to cheer Freeman's name. 1-1 the count on Freeman, who singled in the first, doubled in the fourth. One and two.
And that's exactly it. That patience, knowing that Conley is not going to give you anything good to hit. You're sitting middle away. You have to be able to recognize and lay off this pitch, which is a slider. It's not the fastball. It's about 10 miles an hour slower. And you can see Freeman watch his front side, watch everything going, because he's looking for the 2 pitches that he's already crushed tonight. And he's got to recognize they're not going back there.
Come on.
2 balls, 2 strikes on Freeman. Going to be tough for a guy who's established in the prime of his career and a complete rebuilding job. And they traded just about everybody else that he ever played with. It's almost an entirely new team, a lot of young players, a lot of prospects, many of whom, of course, have not yet gotten to the major league level.
And where that hurts you as a hitter, as much as you want to be the guy that the entire franchise is built around, is you also want to be built around offensively. And Nick Markakis has done well lately, and I think that's why Freeman's numbers have been better, but he needs protection.
Runners will be on the move on the pitch, and it's ball 4 to load the bases. Well, we talked about how much change there's been in the Atlanta organization, and they do have a number of young players they are very high on. Most notably, a former first overall pick, Dansby Swanson, who was picked up in a trade with Arizona. But let's bring Buster in on this. Buster, what's the take around baseball? What do you know about all these young players?
The take is that they've accumulated a lot of talent. People in the industry thought that the trade they made with Arizona last year, swapping Shelby Miller and getting back Dansby Swanson and 2 other players, was a home run trade for the Braves. There is still some question about exactly how good some of the pitching is that they've accumulated. But look, there's no question they have, as they prepare to move to the new ballpark, a lot more minor league talent than they had 2 years ago.
Won 67 games last year, won 96 3 years ago, but in full rebuilding mode right now. Ibar's at third, Whistler's at second. Freeman's at first with 2 down for Markakis. Markakis is flied out and grounded out. Marlins got 2 runs in the top half of the inning. The Braves try to answer back here in the bottom half of the 5th. Miami up 2-0. Markakis is the club leader in RBIs with 42 on the season. Hot shot to third. But a nice play by Prado to Dietrich covering, and Atlanta will leave them loaded at the bottom of the 5th.
Into our fabric like the stars and stripes. And tonight at Fort Bragg, a home game for everyone who calls this country home and knows how truly special it is.
And it's been a special night for the members of the military and their families who are here at the ball game tonight, for the ball players who have gotten a chance to come to Fort Bragg and meet members of the military, learn a little bit about what goes on here at this huge military installation, and for us to be along for the ride and have the opportunity to bring the game to you here tonight. We are going to the 6th inning with the Marlins leading the Braves 2-0. Tuesday, our Baseball Tonight crew will reveal the American and National League All-Star teams at 7 Eastern right here on ESPN. They'll break down both lineups with all the stats and info. The Esurance All-Star Selection Show, also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Six, 7, 8 in the Marlins lineup. Dietrich, Johnson, and Echeverria against Whistler. Dietrich has flied out and walked. Fly ball to left field. Francoeur back on the track. 1 down. I'm so curious what the commissioner meant about, other future initiatives and opportunities.
That was a tease.
I don't think we worked him over hard enough for information in that. We were too nice.
Well, it was a 1-2-3 inning too.
That's
it
true.
Went quick.
That's true. Yeah.
We should have pried a little bit. You're right.
Yeah.
I wanted to know.
I can't wait.
Just some hints. Like, are we talking military? Is it another country?
Johnson lifts a fly ball into center field, and making the catch, Darno, 2 down. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, in attendance here tonight at Fort Bragg. We mentioned Tony Clark, the executive director of the Players Association, is here as well. And I think both sides have to be thrilled with how it's come off, and it's also great to see the collaboration between baseball and the Players Association on an event such as this.
Well, and the fact that it was all of them. They didn't ask anything of Fort Bragg besides just providing the space. Obviously, it was a gift, and no money, no anything came from the servicemen and women.
Right.
It was definitely a gift all the way.
The field was built, the stadium, if you will, was built with money provided by Major League Baseball and the Players Association. It was not the military, no. It was private dollars. It was baseball and the PA who spent the money to build this field. Ibar, another leaping throw, but not this time. Echeverria will beat it out for his second hit of the night.
Guys, I had players tell me that the playing surface in this park is actually better than some major league parks surfaces that they played on during the course this year. They were very impressed with how quickly this came together and how great it is.
I mean, I think you guys, when you walked in here, you guys were even more than impressed. I mean, you guys were blown away, right?
As an infielder, the first thing I always look at is the infield, and right away it looked like one of those fields like, let me take ground balls on this field. And that is rarely the case when you're talking about a new field, even a new major league field.
Connolly bounces one back to the mound, and that's all for the Marlins here in the 6th. Going bottom 6, 6-pitch inning, still 2-0 Miami. We're here at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Let's go back to the pregame ceremony. This is a video provided to us tonight by Jose Fernandez of the Marlins. He was so pumped up about being here. He videoed the Apache flyover and then gave the video to Buster and said, hey, use this on TV.
He's got some TV in his future. Now that flyover was really special. I broke out my phone as well. How loud it was and kind of the power of the Apache helicopters.
He wanted to see it as we played it on television. He was pretty fired up.
He went in there to go watch the TV.
Was he sitting with you, Buster, just now when we ran that?
Yeah, he was. I called him over. I said, you got to watch this. He was all fired up.
Had a rough day yesterday. Got knocked around by the Braves quite a bit. After Friday, he was used in a game as a pinch hitter in the 12th inning and came up with a 2-run double to give the Marlins a 7-5 win. He's having a great year. He's headed to San Diego.
And guys, he did something that was so cool before this game. He went over the stands and there was a soldier there who had a 82nd airborne flag, and he took it to every player in the Marlins clubhouse and got every player in the dugout to sign it for the soldier.
He's getting the most out of the opportunity to be here tonight. 1-2 to Garcia. And here's what Buster was talking about. Fernandez making sure everybody signed that flag.
The great game of baseball.
Every single player you talked to before the game was fired up to be here.
I was even talking to Chris Johnson of the Marlins, and he was saying his favorite part was the special ops stuff that they got to do with the night vision. They got some little mini ATVs that they're riding around the woods. He's like, it was crazy. And he's like, you just really get an understanding of what these guys are trained to do in very special and unique situations.
Fly ball to right field. Stanton there, 1 down. Well, a lot of the insignias for various components of Fort Bragg are on the outfield wall here at the field, including the game logo, the U.S. Army logo, U.S. Forces Command, 18th Airborne Corps, Joint Special Ops, U.S. Army Reserve Command, 82nd Airborne Division, and many others. Tyler Flowers looks at a strike. He's flied out and been hit by a pitch. He's coming off a couple of really good games. Friday night, he hit a home run off A.J. Ramos in the 9th inning to force extra innings. Thursday had 3 doubles in a game. Kind of interesting for the Marlins. The first time, Ramos is 24 for 24 in save situations. Then they trade for Rodney. Rodney's going to be the setup man. The first time Ramos is used after Rodney comes to Miami, Ramos, his first blown save of the season. Stanton again, a little bit deeper this time, but room. Well, we showed you what the flyover looked like from Jose Fernandez's cell phone. Here's what it looked like from one of the helicopters, one of the Apache helicopters, as they flew over the ballpark before the game tonight. How cool is that?
What a view.
Wow.
Makes you think about when they jump out of those things, too. That view looks like.
Black Hawk helicopter, I'm told. My mistake. I'd say our gang in the truck is working overtime tonight here too. They're getting some great shots. Here's Jeff Francoeur, 0 for 2. Two 2-0 Marlins, bottom of the 6th. Both runs scoring in the top of the 5th inning. Real Muto and Yelich with the RBIs for Miami. Conley grunting as he muscled up on that fastball at 93 miles an hour.
Well, remember, we spoke to Don Mattingly before the game, and he says when Conley gets to around that 80 to 90 pitch count mark, that's when times he'll start to get tired. You'll see him starting missing spots, and he gets a little more heightened on where he's locating pitches.
Coming in hot.
You had us?
Yeah. I was staring at the monitor the whole time.
Me too. Jess and I are looking at the monitor. Where'd that ball land? Close?
7-8 feet to our right.
I just heard it.
Fly ball to left field. And that's the inning. 3 fly ball outs for Conley here in the bottom of the 6th. It remains Miami 2 and Atlanta nothing in a very special, memorable night here at Fort Bragg.
an airborne division specializing in parachute assault operations. From the First World War to the global war on terror, the 82nd has deployed and served honorably in support of American military operations around the globe.
Home of the 82nd Airborne here at Fort Bragg. 250,000 people living here. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, an installation that encompasses 6 counties in North Carolina. And they have been unbelievable hosts. And we're all thrilled to be a small part of this and being able to bring you the ball game here tonight.
And some of those hosts, the servicemen and women, have asked if we would acknowledge those that have been killed in action. And we certainly want to do that tonight.
By the way, 7th inning stretch upcoming at the end of this half inning, and we will keep it here for what is sure to be a stirring rendition of God Bless America. Top of the order for the Marlins, Real Muto, Prado, and Yelich. Here in the 7th, Miami leading 2-0. Real Muto 1 for 3, singled, scored, drove in a run back in the 5th. 3-1. Sneaks one through into left field, a base hit. In honor of tonight's game, Chevrolet made a donation to the Fort Bragg community to support the future of baseball here at the base. Chevrolet and its dealers are proud to support the military and youth baseball. To learn more, visit ChevySalutes.com. Chevy donated $50,000 in equipment to help enable the families and the community of Fort Bragg to continue to spend the time together playing baseball and softball.
And that's been something that's been so important to Commissioner Manfred. He touched on that a little bit, but the commitment to the youth and just getting kids out and playing baseball. And thanks to Chevy for donating that to the kids here at Fort Bragg.
Lots of patriotism on display here tonight in all kinds of different ways.
Those are perfect for tomorrow, 4th of July.
Yeah. The batter, Martin Prado, 1 for 3. Boy, this guy, how solid is this guy? How dependable and consistent has this guy been over the years?
And not just for what he provides offensively, but this is a very solid defensive infield, and they give all the credit in the world to Martin Prado, and how he leads that shows the example.
Runner goes, swing and a miss, throw down on a bounce, skips into center field. Real Muto, who as Aaron mentioned earlier runs very well for a catcher, has his 6th stolen base on the season.
Well, and they picked a great pitch to run on. It's a breaking ball, slider. Flowers actually does a pretty good job of handling that ball in the dirt and getting rid of that ball quickly. I don't know if Ibar was going to have a chance, even if he came up with that cleanly, but a nice break by Real Muto, and finally the Marlins taking advantage of what has been not a great combination for the Braves in holding runners this year. Whistler and Flowers have both struggled in that department.
So now Prado, who's really good at advancing runners, still kind of plays an old school style of baseball, if you will. It is 0-2. Choking up on the bat. Let's see if he just tries to punch one to the right side to at least advance Real Muto. Or he could loop one into left field, a base hit. Runner around third, on his way home, and will score without a throw. 3-0 Marlins. Let's go now to our greater coverage of baseball play of the game, brought to you by T-Mobile. Christian Yelich having himself a big night. 3 at-bats, 3 base hits.
And I just like watching the way he swings the bat because he makes it look so simple. And he took 3 different pitches, the last one coming in a very critical time with runners in scoring position. But the way that he has a feel for different pitches, different speeds, and is able to battle off pitches to get the one he wants to get the hit.
Matt Whistler is out of the game here in the 7th inning with Miami's lead up to 3-0. Ryan Snitker has come to the mound. He's going to the bullpen. It'll be the left-hander Ian Kroll coming on to try to figure out a way to get Yelich out here tonight. Sirius XM All-Star Futures Game, 7 Eastern on MLB Network. And a week from tomorrow, the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, 8 o'clock Eastern Time right here on ESPN. Then on Tuesday, the 12th, the MLB All-Star Red Carpet Show presented by Chevrolet. And then the All-Star Game, the MLB All-Star Game presented by MasterCard, Tuesday the 12th at 7:30 Eastern Time on Fox.
I'm pumped for the Derby. It's going to be my first one.
Ian Kroll into the game now for a lefty-lefty matchup with Yelich.
Yeah, and for the 26th time has held lefties to a 188 batting average. Fastball, both 2 and 4 seam that will get up into the mid-90s. An old cutter or slider.
Think this guy's going to win a batting title or two at some point?
Definitely. And it's, to me, what impresses me, he reminds me a little bit of Xander Bogaerts in the sense that, first of all, a young hitter, but the one who's always approached his at-bats in a way, just singles. Just trying to, he'll find a gap, but he's not trying to crank the ball out of the stadium. And I think for a lot of younger hitters, it's usually the reverse. They're trying to get something inside they can lift and pull and hit it hard. And for him, he just has a perfect approach, and the power's going to come.
It's absolutely going to come. In 3, 4, 5 years, get used to seeing 20-plus home runs from this guy. It's just such a pure swing. I mean, if you look at him, he looks like he's 16 years old still, and there's still so much filling out I still think he's going to go through, but a great young hitter.
Lined back to the mound, and a double play.
Well, another rocket off the bat of Christian Yelich. Looked like a cut fastball here on the outer half that he stays on and hammers back through the middle. Ian Kroll just kind of self-preservation out there, throws that glove up, is able to stab it, and then Martin Prado drifting off of first base, an easy double play once he secures it.
And another pitching change. That's going to be all for Kroll, as Brian Snitker will go to his bullpen again. So we'll step aside one more time here at Fort Bragg with the Marlins leading 3-0. To safely traverse water while in combat. No easy task, needless to say, wearing a uniform and boots and carrying a loaded weapon that weighs 9 pounds. But they get it done. That's the one I would have done that. Couldn't you have arranged me to do that?
I could have easily arranged. I mean, Booney and I have connections now, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Post game.
Post game. Here's right-hander Chris Withrow.
Righties hitting just 196 against him on the season. Fastball, slider.
2 down and the base is empty. The Marlins leading 3-0. First pitch swinging, ground ball up the middle, backhanded stop Peterson, and the inning is over. A run for the Marlins. They lead 3-0. 7th inning stretch. We're keeping it here for God Bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Major League Baseball invites all of our guests to please rise and sing along as we celebrate America's freedom with a sing of God Bless America, performed by the 82nd Airborne Division's All-American Chorus.
The sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain, to the prairie, to the ocean's white before. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountain, to the prairie, oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America,
sewn into our fabric like the stars and stripes. More than our national pastime, it is a connection to home.
Welcome back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves in front of a crowd of better than 12,500. Having a great old time. Marlins up 3-0 as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. And Don Mattingly has gone to his bullpen for right-hander David Phelps.
Something that's been an absolute strength for the Marlins this year, that bullpen, and now it's set up perfectly for Phelps, who's had a really nice season, on for the 40th time. See that strikeout to walk ratio, whip just at 1. Fastball low mid 90s, cut fastball and a curveball, but now set up perfectly to possibly see Phelps, Rodney, Ramos.
And Booney, that's probably been the biggest benefit of going out and getting Rodney and adding him, Don Mattingly saying, because now it lengthens this bullpen, because Phelps has normally been the 8th inning guy. Now he bumps into that 7th inning rule because they can now go to Rodney in the 8th, and of course Ramos in that possible closer role.
And Jess, you think about this team, and if they were to get to the postseason and maybe add another piece, another starter at some point, it's potentially a scary team in the postseason, because it kind of has that resembling what we've seen at times from the San Francisco Giants. Contact hitting team, a lot of guys that put the ball in play, that are pretty good against good pitching. If Giancarlo gets it going from a power standpoint, that threat in the middle of the lineup, and then a bullpen that looks to continue to get stronger and stronger, deeper and deeper, something Don Mattingly hasn't had the luxury the last few years in the postseason with the Dodgers.
Ibar with a chopper to first. Johnson will underhand it on to Phelps, one down. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to Advanced Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Pitcher spot due up, and this is Emilio Bonifacio who's going to pinch hit. So as you can see, we talked a little bit about the Braves turnover and the rebuilding job. Most of the prospects, most of the guys they're really high on, are not in the big leagues yet. By the time that they are where they hope they're going to get, the Bonifacios and the Ibars and some of the other players probably won't be with this team anymore. This is not a finished product by any stretch of the imagination. Opening a new ballpark, SunTrust Park, up north of Atlanta. It'll open next year, 2017. So Adam Connolly, who's given away to David Phelps here in the 7th, a very nice outing. 6 innings, 6 shutout innings, 4 hits, walked 1, hit 2, only struck out 2. The Braves left 7 men on against him, as now the Marlins turn it over to Phelps here in the 7th.
I think Don Mattingly wisely pulled Connolly at the right time. In his last start, he was just rolling through batters, and he got into the 5th inning and started to struggle a little bit. Don said, hey, I get 80 to 90 pitches, and you'll start to see him throw more pitches down the middle.
Bonifacio takes strike 3 call.
Well, this is the two-seam fastball, guys, that he starts in off the plate, and watch this ball just run to that inside corner. Perfect execution from Phelps. Real Muto with a good frame there, and Adam Conley liking the second out there.
So Phelps now will face Jace Peterson, the leadoff hitter for Atlanta, still looking to extend that hitting streak. 0 for 3 tonight. He's on a 13-gamer.
Had a big home run in yesterday's game against Jose Fernandez. So the Braves got to the Marlins ace, Jace Peterson, really starting to establish himself after a trip to the minor leagues. Has come back and been an offensive spark for this Braves team. Kevin Seitzer, the hitting coach for the Braves, real excited when I spoke with him earlier before the game about what Jace Peterson could be offensively, and certainly feel like he could be a part of the future when this team starts to get good again.
Phelps right on the outside edge, and it's 0-2. A largely pro-Braves crowd here in North Carolina. Haven't had a whole lot to cheer about from an offensive perspective. No runs on 4 hits for Atlanta tonight, down 3-0. But they have been an enthusiastic crowd for Atlanta, and just because they're watching a baseball game here at Fort Bragg. There's Dale Murphy.
Looks good, doesn't he?
He does. Man, was he good. Swing and a miss. Tag applied, and the inning is over. A very good inning for David Phelps. 7 in the books. 3-0 Marlins. Flatbread sandwich at Taco Bell. It's all the steak, none of the sacrifice, and in part by Chevrolet, the most awarded car company 2 years in a row, and Lowe's. Leo Bonifacio, Freddie Freeman, and the Braves getting a tour of the facilities a little bit earlier today. Needed a little help to get his helmet off at the parachute packing facility. Freddie Freeman was in on that as well. Tyrell Jenkins is on the mound now for Atlanta as we go to the top of the 8th inning. And a fly ball to deep right center off the bat of Giancarlo Stanton is past Darno and all the way to the base of the fence. And Stanton's around second and on his way to third and in there without a throw.
If you want to get a little taste of the power of Giancarlo Stanton, just on this swing alone, if you watch his front foot, watch it open up. And this is all backside. All that powerful back leg and his arms going to the ball. His front half had already opened up. Otherwise, he would have hit this thing out of the park. But this is how far Giancarlo Stanton can hit with one side of his body as he gets it past the diving Darno in center.
First triple of the season for Stanton. The infield inching in for the Braves, not wanting to fall any further behind. 4th appearance of the season with the Braves for right-hander Tyrell Jenkins, who came from St. Louis with Shelby Miller in the Jason Hayward deal.
Yeah, started 9 games down in the minor leagues for the Braves. Fastball, mid-90s, curveball, occasional changeup.
Whistler went 6+ innings, gave up 3 runs on 10 hits. Ian Kroll got a double play line out, so he went 2/3 of an inning, faced just 1 batter. Chris Withrow got a ground out to end the inning, the 7th, and now Jenkins on here in the 8th.
Dan, you talked about Derek Dietrich and the hit by pitches that he gets, and this is a trend we're seeing in baseball a lot lately, especially with left-handed batters. They're just crowding the plate. Rizzo's a big guy that comes to mind for the Cubs, but it makes it very difficult for a pitcher to get inside.
Fly ball left center field, taking Darno back. He'll make the catch, but an easy tag and score for Stanton to make it 4-0.
And what that does, and you saw it in that last hit by Dietrich, even though it's a ball that's caught in center, is it just opens up the plate for lefties that have a hard time going with a pitch that's middle to away. Dietrich, because when his right foot, you see it get down, now he's closed, a pitch moving away from him that he probably would have struggled with if he was more off the plate, but instead this is more center cut for him, and he's able to drive it to center field to get himself an RBI.
It's basically hitters saying, if you can throw 3 pitches to this inside corner, you tip your cap and walk away.
Yeah.
The reality is pitchers
Or you get
don't
hit.
have a hard time going in there for fear of making a mistake, which turns into an extra base hit or a long ball, or hitting a person. So they're much more comfortable going to the outer half, and by crowding, you take that away.
Hearing so many more guys talk about trying to do it. And it's difficult. I mean, I did it as a hitter. I crowded probably the last 8 years of my career. I got on the plate, and it was an adjustment in the beginning, but what it did for me was it allowed me to open up a part of the plate I could not hit before. And you do get hit a lot, but that's why they got all the padding now.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Chris Johnson at first base tonight for the Marlins. We mentioned Justin Bour suffered a leg injury last night. He is out of the lineup tonight. Bour's a big power guy. He's got 15 home runs in just 213 at-bats this year. It's a pretty formidable lineup when they're all in there, as Johnson strikes out for out number 2. Well, here at Fort Bragg Field and the surrounding area, the compound, as we call it, concessions, souvenirs, the TV trucks, and everything else. We would like to thank Major League Baseball, and ESPN would like to thank Musco for providing the lighting for tonight's game. It's lit perfectly here inside the ballpark, outside as well. There were a whole lot of people from a whole lot of different organizations who put a whole lot of work into making this happen. And again, a tip of the cap to Major League Baseball and the Players Association for getting this project off the ground. Obviously, the Army here at Fort Bragg heavily involved as well with all of their volunteers. Danny Echeverria is the batter.
And I got to say, best hot dog I've had this year here at Fort Bragg Field. You know I'm a connoisseur of
You are a connoisseur.
ballpark hot dogs.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Fort Bragg Field's winning.
I agree with you. Do you think a second one would be just as good?
I think you guys were a little hungry on the first one. I'm surprised you actually tasted it, because I watched you, I don't know if eating is the proper term, inhale.
3 bites,
first.
maybe 4, no more than 4.
I've been trying to be a little subtle in my hint to Kristen back there to make some things happen, but
now that you've said it on national television.
I mean, $5, you can foot that bill for me, can't you, Dan?
Absolutely.
Actually, Jess, I think you have.
Actually, yes.
It's your turn.
This is your turn.
I got dinner.
That's right.
$5 all around.
3-2. High ball 4. And that will bring up as a pinch hitter tonight Ichiro, 42 years of age, on the cusp of 3,000 hits in his major league career. He's 11 shy right now. He's hitting well over 300, not playing every day, 4th outfielder. But what a year he's having, and on the verge of becoming the 30th player with 3,000 hits. And look at some of the names he could and should pass in the second half of the season. It is remarkable what he is still doing at his age, still contributing. Still a tough out. Little flare foul.
Still running.
Yes.
7 stolen bases to lead the team.
And all the things that you see with a hitter that go with age, Ichiro has not. And this is a nice example of just the way he sees the ball. Very unique swing. But you talked about the speed is still there. The eyesight is still there. And that's why you see him continue to get the hits even this late in his career.
Let's take a look at some of the accomplishments Ichiro has had in his big league career. Came to the majors in 2001 with Seattle, won Rookie of the Year and won the MVP. And once he gets to 3,000 hits, he'll become just the 5th player. Look at the company that he will join with 3,000 hits, a 300 average, and 500 or more stolen bases. 4 Hall of Famers, and Ichiro, I think, should sail into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot.
No question. No question.
And it's crazy to think he spent 9 years, his first 9 seasons, playing in Japan, and what he would have been able to do numbers-wise over here had he come over from the beginning of his career. He had 200+ hits, as you mentioned, in the first 10 years.
Ibar charging, and they get him by a step at first. Going bottom 8 at Fort Bragg. Marlins 4, Braves nothing. Between the Rockies and the Giants, and then at 7 Eastern, the suddenly hot Detroit Tigers. They just swept 4 from Tampa Bay. They'll take on the Cleveland Indians, who after winning 14 in a row have now lost their last 2. Those games also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. And after the game, stay with the Baseball Tonight for all the highlights and analysis from the best in the business. Well, the Marlins went out and made a move a few days ago to bolster the bullpen. They picked up a very experienced guy in Fernando Rodney.
How about that year right there? On for the 30th time, a microscopic earned run average, a whip below 1. Still, after all these years, a dominant back end of the bullpen reliever. Fastball, low mid-90s typically nowadays, and an outstanding changeup that he'll throw over 40% of the time. That's always been his go-to pitch.
Miguel Rojas takes over at second base for Derek Dietrich.
The difference, Booney, this season for Rodney, and why you see those microscopic numbers is he's able to, this year especially, command that fastball to set up his changeup. And that's where he struggled, especially last year.
Now a chant of USA, USA breaks out here at Fort Bragg. Down and away, Rodney misses for ball 2. Rodney with better than 250 career saves. Don Mattingly saying Ramos is still the guy in the 9th inning. Rodney will set up.
Rodney is one of those handful of pitchers, probably that I could count on one hand, that I faced in my career, that he could tell you changeup was coming, you could sell out on the changeup, and it was still just so difficult to time because of the great arm speed he creates with it that just makes it incredibly deceptive. It just has that Bugs Bunny that you hear about all the time, that Bugs Bunny effect that you know it's coming. And I'm sure Darno might have been even looking for it there, way out in front. Barely got a piece of it breaking his bat.
Now back with a fastball, grounded down to third for out number 1. Here's Freddie Freeman, who's had a very good night, a single, a double, and he's drawn a walk.
You got to think too, another thing that Fernando Rodney brings to this team, besides lengthening the bullpen, but also for this starting rotation that doesn't go deep into games. So this is something that creates another inning. It's another strength that doesn't put pressure on the rotation to consistently have to get into that 7th inning. Right now with Freeman, I feel like the biggest plan on him, because he's had so much success middle away fastball, is getting him in on the hands and then working that changeup away.
Well, we may not see him tonight, but the Marlins have another reliever having a terrific year. We saw Phelps in the 7th, now Rodney in the 8th, and possibly Ramos in the 9th. But Kyle Barraclough, who now goes up the ladder maybe to the 6th inning. We'll see how Don Mattingly plays it out tonight in the future. He's got 56 strikeouts in 32 2/3 innings this season. I mean, they can throw some arms at you.
And that's where the postseason looks so enticing, Aaron. You mentioned it earlier. This team can hit, and they hit in the right ways, a very Royals-esque offense. Not a ton of home runs, but they're going to put the ball in play, especially against tough pitching.
And that guy lined up the middle, and Echeverria with a diving catch behind second. Man, that ball was hit hard.
Well, and that's another thing they do is defend, especially in the infield. Echeverria, one of the real outstanding shortstops in the game, as this ball is scalded. May have been knuckling. Yeah, and there you see Echeverria say that ball was knuckling. Lucky he didn't take that one off the face, but great reactions, great adjustment in the air to be able to catch that. Look out.
Crazy athleticism, hand-eye coordination to be mid-air. It's almost superhero-like.
He's been a Gold Glove finalist each of the last 2 years at shortstop in the National League. So 2 down here in the bottom of the 8th, and the batter Nick Markakis. We took a shot of Jose Fernandez just before that ball was lined up the middle. There are so many great starting pitchers in the National League. Almost every contending team has a legitimate ace, but Fernandez is right in that conversation. Doesn't get quite the notoriety because the Marlins maybe don't get the attention of Mets or Dodgers or Cubs or some of the other teams, but he's as good as just about anybody.
I could see a Kershaw-Fernandez matchup in that wild card.
End of 8, 4-0 Marlins. Coming off the field after a good inning, Fernando Rodney enjoying himself, getting his groove onto a little Cotton Eye Joe here at Fort Bragg. Just kind of having fun. Jose Fernandez dancing. You should have seen Tim Wallach and Don Mattingly, by the way, when Rodney got into the dugout. They loved it. It's a pretty loose group here tonight.
Endearing himself to his new Marlin teammates. Little Cotton Eye Joe. Another new setup man.
Tyrell Jenkins back in the mound for Atlanta as we go to the top of the 9th inning. The Marlins lead 4-0. Adam Connolly in line for a win for Miami. JT Realmuto is 2 for 4, has scored twice, driven in a run, stolen a base. Not often that a catcher leads off, but he's got some speed. And part of it is with Bohr out of the game, they drop Dietrich down to give a little more protection in the middle of the lineup. Otherwise, Dietrich might lead off.
It's definitely paid off tonight. Realmuto, 2 runs scored. Good job. Top of the order. It's a little stolen base to add.
3-1. Driven to deep left center field. It is gone. Realmuto with a home run. His 5th of the season, and the Marlins now lead 5-0.
Well, what a night for one of the better kept secrets from behind the plate for the leadoff hitter, the catcher tonight, Realmuto. Couple of base hits, a stolen base, run scored, and here with a 4-0 lead, he gets a fastball in the heart of the plate and puts an absolute charge in it, keeping that bat in the hitting zone for a long time, riding it out of here to center field. That is a long way. Mr. Bonds appreciative of that swing.
Barry Bonds, the hitting coach for the Marlins this year. Big night for Realmuto. Ball hit 400+ feet.
We've seen a few drives into center in the gaps that haven't left the park.
Now a liner into center, drops in for a base hit for Prado. His 3rd hit of the night. I'm Realmuto. That's a souvenir I want if somebody can get a hold of that in Fort Bragg baseball.
Yeah.
Here's Yelich. 3 for 4, and the one time they retired him was a line out right back to the mound. It turned into a double play. Ground ball to short, backhanded Ibar to second one, and no chance for a throw to first. Baseball's 2 biggest summer events back-to-back. The T-Mobile Home Run Derby on ESPN July the 11th at 8 Eastern. And then the very next night, don't miss baseball's biggest stars at the 87th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard July 12th on Fox. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern Time. We've got one more Sunday nighter coming your way in the so-called first half of the season. We'll be out in San Francisco next week as the Giants host the Diamondbacks. Arizona putting Zach Greinke on the DL.
We would have had him in our Sunday night game.
Marcell Ozuna is 0 for 4. Pitch will get away, and up to second on the play goes Yelich.
I'm out.
Wild pitch. Giants beat the Diamondbacks earlier today 5-4 in 11 innings. San Francisco is 20 games over 500.
And what's amazing is coming off an outstanding June in which they really got hit by the injury bug. Obviously, Hunter Pence going down, Joe Panik hitting the disabled list, Pagan came back, Duffy landing on the disabled list, but hasn't stopped the Giants from just continuing to win games, continuing to win low-scoring games.
And they're pitching. That's what's been keeping them in it. That's the key of who hasn't been on the DL. You haven't seen Madison Bumgarner and Johnny Cueto and Jeff Samardzija. Top 3 guys that have been pretty ridiculous the last couple months.
Breaking ball taken low, ball 3. And there's the closer. A.J. Ramos, non-save situation, but he's up to get some work in here in the bottom of the 9th. Sharply hit. Nice stop by Peterson, and from a knee, he will throw him out. Ozuna retired. Runner to third, 2 down. Let's take a look at some of the stories around baseball today. We just mentioned Arizona put Zach Greinke on the DL with a strained left oblique. Steven Strasburg came off the DL today and threw 6 2/3 no-hit innings before being removed after having thrown 109 pitches. Washington an easy win over Cincinnati, and the Mets beat the Cubs 14-3 today, swept a 4-game series. Wilmer Flores went 6 for 6 with 2 home runs in that game.
Wow. Didn't see that.
He went all C.J. Cron on us. C.J. Cron had that kind of a day yesterday for the Angels.
Back-to-back days, 2 6-hit.
Yep.
But how about Travis d'Arnaud, too? I mean, he's been a huge help with what's been a struggling Mets offense until this last little streak, but he's been a huge help coming back in that catcher position.
There have been some crazy games lately. The Angels scored 21 on the Red Sox yesterday. The Blue Jays scored 17 on the Indians today. Chris Jimenez, their catcher, pitched 2 innings in relief in that game.
Yeah, and couldn't score 2 days ago.
You're right. And went,
pounded out 1 run in 19
innings. Oh, I was there.
Yeah. That was a great game, though.
Yeah, it was great. And Miguel Montero pitched for the Cubs today, right, against the Mets.
Might get Schulman in a game before the end of this season.
There's good. Ball 4.
I put my money on Dan Schulman. He's got the length.
He's got
slider.
A tough arm slot from the left side.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slinger.
Yeah.
5-0. The Marlins leading the Braves here at Fort Bragg. Glad you've been along with us tonight. A special night, a fun night for us to be a part of. Fun night for Braves fans or whoever you're rooting for, members of the military and their families. They got all the seats here tonight. 12,500. First at bat for Rojas, came on defensively for Dietrich. The Marlins will head north to New York. They'll start a series with the Mets tomorrow night. And the Braves are heading to Philadelphia to start a 3-game series tomorrow. 1 more week of baseball until the All-Star break. 2-1.
I think it's safe to say for all of us, this is a trip that we'll never forget. And to get to rub shoulders with these great servicemen and women, I just want to say thank you to all those who serve our great nation.
Absolutely, well said. Ground ball to the side of the mound. Jenkins will fire it on to first, and that'll end the inning. A run on the Real Muto home run, 5-0 Miami as we go bottom 9. goes into it for the folks in the Army here at Fort Bragg. It begins early. They're working on cardio, strength, endurance. They're doing all kinds of different things to help keep America safe. We, as Aaron said, we want to thank them for their service and their hospitality here this weekend. Now here's a special story for you. Hubert Edwards, 97 years young. A World War II veteran. There he is. Veteran of World War II, U.S. Army Artillery Unit, a lifelong Braves fan. Never been to a Braves game in person until tonight. Lives nearby, and the Braves found out, and Fort Bragg found out, and they arranged for him to come to the base and see the game here tonight. His favorite player, Chipper Jones. Also a big Freddie Freeman fan, we're told, so he's seen Freeman have a good night. So how much fun is he having to see his favorite team play in person for the first time at the age of 97? A.J. Ramos, the closer for the Marlins, comes out of the pen here in the bottom of the ninth. Adonis Garcia leads it off for Atlanta. Non-save situation here with a 5-run lead.
See that ERA below 2. Walks a little higher than you'd like from your closer in that amount of innings. But he's been an outstanding closer for this club now for the last couple of seasons. Fastball there you see. Typically around 92, 93 miles an hour. Slider, changeup.
Waves at it, and it's 2-2. To stay alive. There's 4 hits on the night for the Braves. Adam Connolly with 6 shutout innings. David Phelps a 3 up 3 down 7th. Fernando Rodney a 3 up 3 down 8th. And now Ramos here in the 9th. The Marlins trying to get to 4 games over 500. Stay right in the thick of things in the National League wildcard race. Full count. Conley in line for win number 5 tonight. Would even up his record at 5 up and 5 down. Got him. 1 down. Fourth of July doubleheader tomorrow on ESPN. The Rockies and Giants at 4 Eastern. Tigers and the Indians at 7 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow night. We'll have the Diamondbacks and the Giants for you 1 week from tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. Tyler Flowers the batter. Also stay tuned for Sports Center coming up after the ball game tonight here on ESPN.
Dan, one of probably the biggest highlights for me this weekend, Booney, when we had lunch with Colonel Moretti yesterday at the house, and how proud he was this year being the first year of the gender integration and every female being allowed to be a part of combat. So Tyler Flowers get hit by the pitch.
Well, A.J. Ramos, who's typically in the low 90s, we saw him strike the first hitter out with a fastball at 95 down the middle, and this just overthrowing a fastball. Doesn't feel like there's any intent here, but this ball just completely gets away from him. Fortunately for Flowers, he's able to get that shoulder to it and kind of protect the head area, but this is obviously a scary moment right here as that fastball just rides up and in.
Rancour sends one down the right field line, but foul.
Back to Colonel Moretti and the fact that the gender integration, how big that is for all the military and everything from the Air Force, the Marine Corps, Army Rangers, Green Berets, that the the Berets, the Navy SEALs, and something that's never been done. And January 1st of this year, women can now be a part of driving tanks, firing mortars, leading infantry soldiers. And many have immediately in just the 6 months that this has been in place.
Bounced foul, 1-2 on Francoeur. Well, a ton of service women here on the base, not just servicemen. It's great to see.
Well, he spoke about how successful it's gone, even early on here, that it's just opened up so many more opportunities and opportunities for great people to serve in roles that they should be in.
Which is a huge part of why the military is so special, is how it constantly is evolving.
2-2 fouled back. Colonel Moretti doesn't mean barbecue too, we understand.
Yeah. Him and his wife. Cooked up. It was like a family style dinner too, all sat at the dining room table.
Hamburger, hot dogs. I'm getting my fill of hot dogs this weekend. 4th of July weekend.
That's right.
You have to,
Gotta
right?
do it. Down and in, a full count. So Ramos struck out Garcia, then he hit Flowers. Now a full count on Francoeur with a 1 out here in the bottom of the 9th. Inside, ball 4. Boy, how often do you see when a closer comes on with a bit of a cushion, it's not a save situation, and they struggle? Almost every closer has a much better ERA in save situations than they do in non-save situations.
It is remarkable, and you got to believe it's something that's a little bit mental. We've seen it this year with Craig Kimbrell. He's been outstanding in save situations, but in any kind of other situation, maybe they just don't come in quite as sharp with their focus. Here we've seen the command get away from Ramos a little bit with these last 2 hitters. Now in a little bit of trouble.
Eric Ibar is the batter. And he laces a ball to right field. Up against the wall on a bounce. Flowers is in to score. Francoeur will stop at third on the double, and it's 5-1.
Well, it's just a fastball right in the heart of the plate. You know, Ramos with that big lead just wants to do something to get ahead, and he throws a fastball center cut, and Eric Ibar is ready for it. First pitch swinging. He hammers this ball into the corners. You see him get the bat head out in front. And now the Braves, as Giancarlo Stanton runs that ball down and gets it back into the cutoff man. But the Braves now one more base runner away from getting that tying run to the plate here in the bottom of the 9th inning.
And the pinch hitter in the pitcher spot is A.J. Pierzynski, the 39-year-old catcher. First pitch swinging and a fly ball to deep center, but it's playable. The catch is made for the second out. Both runners will tag and advance. So coming into score is Francoeur on the sac fly. That makes it 5-2 for the Marlins, now just an out away.
You can tell there's a lot of Braves fans in the house, how loud they are. I mean, it might not be 40,000, but it sounds like it, how locked in they are with this team.
Don Mattingly happily trades the run for the out, though. They're having fun here, but his team is now just an out away. The potential tying run still not at the plate in the on-deck circle right now. Peterson is up. D'Arnaud is on deck should it get that far. One last chance perhaps here for Peterson to extend his hitting streak to a 14-gamer.
The goal right now, if you're the Atlanta Braves and this offense, is get Freddie Freeman to the plate. Kind of thinking in terms of that as if we can get him up to the plate, we'll take our chances and give ourselves a decent opportunity.
0-2. Freeman 2 batters away. That's your ball game. The Marlins win here at Fort Bragg 5-2 and wind up splitting a 4-game series with the Atlanta Braves on a special and memorable night. Here, thanks to Major League Baseball, the Players Association, the U.S. Army, and everybody involved in putting this game together. Christian Yelich with a big night. Adam